We're here at the London Inn in Cheltenham for a Liberal Democrat event where we are meeting parliamentary candidate Martin Horwood. So I'm just going to pan around. It's an absolutely beautiful day today. Hello Cheltenham LibDems. Okay, so turning around. Oh, are we turning around? Let's have a look. Yes, we're turning around. There's Nick. Beautiful blue sky. Gorgeous day.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
And we're live, Martin.
Oh, we're live.
We're live.
Okay.
Yes, we're live.
Right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the London Inn. And we're also live on Facebook, which is a slightly scary concept, but anyway. So I ought to make clear that all these drinks out here haven't been bought by me, because that would land me straight in prison for bribing and treating. And we have lost, over the last couple of hundred years, we have lost 1 or 2 Liberal MPs for said offence, but they always got re-elected, which I thought was fun. shows a tolerant town, if you ask me. Anyway, thank you very much for coming along, and it's great to see so many people. And it's been fantastic. The campaign so far, I have to say, has been really, really steaming. You'll have seen the new HQ at the Old Crescent Bakery near St James's Square, behind Royal Well. And just for the benefit of Facebook, anyone who wants to support the campaign can come along 7 days a week from 9 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. And you can log on to cheltlibdems.org.uk and you can offer to volunteer or donate. But I would say on the political side, things are also going well. I think Tim Farron is making a big impact nationally. I think our media coverage has been much, much stronger in this campaign than last time, and in fact in most previous campaigns that I remember. And I think Tim is really beginning to make that breakthrough. But obviously it is hard work. But in the places where we know we can win, where we've got a very strong track record, obviously we're powering ahead, and that includes Cheltenham. And we had, you don't just need to take my word for it, of course we've just had the local elections, and if you haven't caught up with the local election results in this town from the beginning of May, we won 7 out of the 10 seats. Well actually I think counting Alex's local borough council by-election, we actually won 8 out of the 11 seats that were up for grabs in Cheltenham on the day, and the Tories only won 2, and we clearly topped the poll. So there is no question that we can win the general election in Cheltenham. There is no question that the Liberal Democrats are on a bit of a roll and that we are capable of winning. But we know there has been this habit in the past of voting Lib Dem locally and sometimes Conservative nationally. And some people, I think last time, strangely, because they like the coalition, they probably like that cuddly Mr Cameron and working so closely with Nick Clegg, and so they were prepared to vote Tory. What of course they've got is something completely different. And we need to remind them that they've got something very, very different now in a very hardline Conservative government that has taken, that is starving the NHS of the funds that it needs. If I tell you that 2 years ago, most NHS trusts in this country, they weren't flush with money, but they were making ends meet. Now, most NHS trusts are in deficit, and that includes Gloucestershire's, which had been in surplus but is now in a serious deficit. And how on earth, if you connect the national picture to the local picture, how on earth can our NHS managers locally look at expanding and improving services like mental health provision, like restoring a full-time 24 A&E in Cheltenham General, which we so badly need, if they are in a situation where they're having to look at cuts and savings and not in a situation where they can really plan confidently from the future? And that's why the party nationally has committed to put 1p on the rate of income tax, to just give us the money, 65 billion, to get us out of this immediate financial crisis and to lay the groundwork for a new deal for the NHS and for social care as well. And some of that money is specifically for mental health, some of that money is specifically for social care as well, which of course adds to the pressure on the NHS. And if we can get that money here locally, that's hundreds of millions of pounds for Gloucestershire each year in addition, and that's more than enough to solve the financial crisis here, to actually look at expanding and improving local NHS services. So the national and the local are intimately connected. And I'm afraid our new Conservative MP has voted for every spending plan and budget that has put the NHS in that situation. So whatever warm words you hear about the NHS from him locally, what he's done nationally is back up a very hardline Conservative government. And the same picture is now facing our schools. I warned even 2 years ago, in fact, LibDem ministers before the end of the coalition warned that Conservative spending plans, if they went ahead, would land many schools in deficit, because they weren't really protecting school funding. They were cutting post-16 education, including at sixth forms in Cheltenham, and there were unfunded pay awards and pension costs coming down the line, which schools weren't being given the money by government to pay for. So it was going to add to the pressure on per pupil funding for things like teaching. And we knew that was coming down the line. We knew that Gloucestershire schools were already underfunded by up to £1,500 per pupil compared to some of the richest boroughs in London. And the situation could have been improved by the new national funding formula that was proposed, and we've been campaigning for a long time to try and level the playing field a bit. What actually happened is that a new national funding formula was announced in December, and it actually would have made, or will make if it goes ahead, makes 15 Cheltenham schools even worse off by hundreds of thousands of pounds. So 2 secondary schools, 2 large secondary schools, and 13 primary schools across Cheltenham are going to be even worse off. And I'm afraid once again our local Conservative MP actually welcomed that announcement in Parliament and welcomed it in a press release the same day. So we need someone who doesn't just talk the talk in Cheltenham, but who walks the walk up in Westminster. And then of course there's the issue of Brexit. And there are people who voted leave and people who voted remain in Cheltenham. But I don't think even the people who voted leave actually voted for what is happening now. I mean, I'm a Remain supporter. I still think, and the party still thinks, that this country would be better off in the European Union. And if we can sway public opinion behind that, as it becomes obvious that the final deal, or lack of a deal, might not be very good for this country, and it becomes increasingly clear that you can't do a deal just by being aggressive to people and threatening to go to war over Gibraltar and things like this, but that actually you need to try and negotiate a positive deal, for instance one that keeps us inside the single market that buys 44% of our exports, vital for Cheltenham jobs and businesses as well as those around the country. Then if that looks as though it's impossible, if it looks as though we're heading for a really disastrous deal or perhaps no deal at all, then we think that there should be a referendum which gives people the option to either accept that situation or to remain in after all. I don't think anyone even who voted leave was voting for that very hard-line vision of Brexit. Many people in the Leave campaign promised hundreds of millions of pounds for the NHS. That's not going to happen. They promised we'd stay in the single market. That doesn't look as though it's going to happen. They didn't say, they quoted examples like Norway and Switzerland as countries which are successfully outside the European Union, but actually the hardline version of Brexit this government is pursuing would make us even more distant from the European Union than those countries, and even more remote. And in a world which has got less certain and less stable, to coin a phrase, you know, I don't think that's a very wise path at all. I think we need our friends in this kind of unstable world, and our friends are in the rest of Europe. And so the closest possible relationship is what we'll be arguing for. And that, again, that impacts Cheltenham jobs and businesses. The local and the national are absolutely connected. But we are on a roll here, and the risk, of course, though, is that in the rest of the country, bizarrely, despite these problems in the NHS, despite the problems in schools, despite this very unstable approach to Brexit, you are looking, everybody's expecting this Tory landslide. And why is that? Well, it's the same reason that despite us doing well in the county elections here, Labour did so badly that the Tories actually gained control of the county council on that day in May. Now, the same picture could be emerging nationally, that Labour are going to be so weak and divided, that we end up with a massive Tory majority. Now, in that situation, if Labour can't provide strong opposition, then we have to step up to the plate. The Liberal Democrats have to provide the strong opposition to the Tories on education, making the case for investment and development of the NHS, making the case for a close relationship with Europe. And I hope that we're going to start that process right here. And that's why I think it's brilliant to see so many people here. And I know many of you have already been to the HQ, already started stuffing envelopes and putting up posters and tweeting and writing letters to the Echo, but keep going. Please keep going for the next 4 weeks. We really need your support because it's vitally important for Cheltenham and for the rest of the country. And at that point, I'm going to say goodbye to all our friends on Facebook and sign off from that. But thank you very much indeed.